Have you ever stopped to notice that you're always running, but never actually getting anywhere? That your mornings begin before you're truly awake, with notifications screaming for your attention, emails demanding immediate responses, and a growing sensation that no matter how fast you move, there will always be something more urgent waiting? If you feel like your life has become a constant race against a clock that never stops accelerating, know that you are not alone in this experience. Something deeply disturbing is happening to our species at this exact moment in history, something our ancestors never experienced, and that may be leading us toward an existential abyss we cannot yet fully comprehend. We are living through the first era in human history where the speed of change exceeds our biological capacity for adaptation, and the consequences of this acceleration are more profound than any previous technological revolution. But here's the fascinating paradox I want to explore with you today. While the world accelerates exponentially, the brightest and wisest minds of our age are doing exactly the opposite. They are stopping, they are slowing down, and there's a deep scientific and philosophical reason for this that could completely change your perspective on what it means to live well in the 21st century. To truly understand what's happening, we need to go back in time and observe how speed has always been the marker of great human transformations. For tens of thousands of years, our ancestors lived at a pace that would seem almost meditative to us today. The agricultural revolution, which began about 10,000 years ago, happened so gradually that hundreds of generations were born and died without realizing they were participating in the greatest transformation in human history up to that point. A Neolithic village changed more in 1,000 years than a band of hunter-gatherers changed in 10,000. Even so, a peasant who lived 1,000 years could perfectly recognize the world of his descendants. The tools were similar, the rituals remained, the social structure was fundamentally the same. Change existed, but it moved in geological time, not human time. Then came the Industrial Revolution, and for the first time in history, a single human life began to witness radical transformations. A man who was born when horses were the primary driving force could die seeing automobiles in the streets. This was revolutionary not only technologically, but psychologically. For the first time, one generation could look at the next generation and honestly say they didn't recognize the world that was emerging. But even this revolution, compared to what we live today, was almost glacial in its speed. Changes took decades to consolidate, allowing societies, laws, values, and mental structures to gradually adapt. There was time for reflection, for cultural digestion, for collective wisdom, to process what was happening. Now, however, we are living something completely different. We are in the era of exponential acceleration, where the speed of change not only increases, but increases ever faster. What used to take generations now happens in years. What used to take years now happens in months. And what used to take months now happens in weeks. An application can be launched on Monday and fundamentally transform how billions of people communicate by Friday of the same week. A scientific discovery can be published in the morning and revolutionize our understanding of reality before sunset. This is not just a quantitative change in speed, it's a qualitative change in the very nature of human experience. We are being forced to live in a state of perpetual adaptation, where our minds and bodies never have time to truly settle into any reality before it's replaced by another. And here's the crucial point. Our brain, which evolved over millions of years to handle gradual and predictable changes, simply wasn't designed for this speed of transformation. Our neural networks, our hormonal systems, our emotional architecture, all of this is being overloaded by demands that exceed our biological processing capacity. What happens when you force a machine to operate far beyond its designed capacity? It breaks down, and what we see today on a global scale are clear signs that our species is beginning to show symptoms of systemic overload. Rates of anxiety, depression, and burnout are reaching epidemic levels precisely in the most technologically advanced societies. Paradoxically, the more connected we become, the lonelier we feel. The more information we have access to, the more confused we become, the faster we can do things, the less time we seem to have. This is not a coincidence. It's the direct result of trying to run 200,000-year-old biological hardware on cultural software that updates every microsecond. Acceleration is not just a technological phenomenon, it's a neurological phenomenon, and it's literally reconfiguring how our mind processes reality. When you're constantly in quick response mode, your capacity for deep reflection atrophies. When you're always reacting to the next stimulus, your capacity for contemplation disappears. When you're perpetually connected to the information flow, your capacity for connection with yourself deteriorates. It's exactly here that we find the revolutionary insight that's transforming how the most perceptive people of our age approach life. They've realized that speed has become a drug, not metaphorically, but literally. The constant stimulation, immediate response, instant feedback, all of this activates the same neural circuits that are activated by addictive substances. Each notification is a small dose of dopamine. Each like is a reinforcement. Each digital interaction is a chemical validation. And like any drug, speed creates tolerance. You need more and more stimulation to get the same feeling of satisfaction. What was once fast enough now seems slow. What was once intense enough now seems boring. And so you accelerate more and more, chasing a state of excitement that becomes increasingly fleeting and less satisfying. But there's something even deeper happening here. Speed isn't just addicting us, it's fragmenting our consciousness. When you're constantly jumping from one task to another, from one notification to another, from one thought to another, your mind loses the ability to form coherent narratives. You begin to live in disconnected fragments of experience rather than in a continuous and meaningful story. And without narrative, without the ability to connect past, present, and future in an understandable sequence, meaning disintegrates. You may be doing many things, but none of them seem to really matter. You may be constantly busy, but deeply empty. I need to stop for a moment and ask you directly, when was the last time you managed to sit in silence without any distraction for more than 10 consecutive minutes? When was the last time you finished a day and could clearly remember what had happened in the first 2 hours of that morning? If you're having difficulty answering these questions, you're experiencing exactly what I'm describing. The fragmentation of consciousness isn't a side effect of modern life, it's its main product. I know it can be uncomfortable to acknowledge this. Many of us have built our identity around our capacity for multitasking, our response speed, our constant connectivity. But if this symptom of fragmented life resonates with your experience, if you feel like you're losing pieces of yourself in the speed of daily life, share your reflection in the comments. It can be as simple as writing, "I recognize this fragmentation when." Your honesty can help other people name what they're feeling, and sometimes naming the problem is the first step to finding the solution. And this is where the story takes a fascinating turn. Because while most people are being dragged by this current of constant acceleration, a small but growing minority of notable individuals is doing something radically different. They are stopping, not temporarily, not as a pause to later return to the race, but as a fundamentally new life philosophy. We're talking about CEOs of technology companies who spend 2 hours a day meditating, renowned scientists who deliberately work on projects that will take decades to complete, writers who write by hand in paper notebooks away from any screen, billionaire investors who make their most important decisions only after long periods of silent contemplation. These aren't nostalgic hippies or reactionary Luddites. They are some of the most sophisticated and successful minds of our age, and they've discovered something profound. Intentional slowness isn't the opposite of efficiency. It's the only real form of efficiency in a hyper-accelerated world. What these individuals have understood is that there's a fundamental difference between being busy and being productive, between being fast and being effective, between processing information and generating wisdom. In a world where everyone is trying to do everything faster, the real competitive advantage belongs to those who can do the right things with depth and intentionality. They realized that speed kills quality, not just the quality of work, but the quality of experience, the quality of relationships, the quality of thought, and fundamentally, the quality of life. When you intentionally slow down, something extraordinary happens. Your mind stops operating in survival mode and begins operating in growth mode. Instead of just reacting to the environment, you begin to create the environment. Instead of being driven by external impulses, you begin to be guided by internal values. Instead of living in disconnected fragments, you begin to live a coherent and meaningful story. Modern neuroscience confirms what contemplatives have always known. The brain has two fundamental modes of operation. The task network mode, which is active when you are focused on specific goal-oriented activities, and the default network mode, which is active when your mind is apparently doing nothing. But this apparent doing nothing is actually when the most important processes of the human mind happen. Memory consolidation, experience integration, creative insight generation, personal meaning, formation, and the construction of a coherent sense of identity. When you're constantly stimulated and always busy, you systematically suppress this second mode of brain operation. And when this happens, you don't just lose the ability to deeply process your experiences, you lose the ability to truly know yourself. Because self-knowledge doesn't emerge from action, it emerges from reflection. Wisdom isn't born from information, it's born from contemplation. Creativity doesn't arise from stimulation, it arises from silence. And this is exactly what the wisest of our age have rediscovered. They understood that in a culture obsessed with doing more, faster, the real revolution is in doing less, slower, but with infinitely more depth and intentionality. They've created what we can call islands of slowness in an ocean of speed, temporal and mental spaces where haste is not allowed, where contemplation is valued, where depth prevails over superficiality. This is not a rejection of technology or progress. It's a more mature and sophisticated relationship with both. It's the difference between being a passive consumer of speed and being an active curator of experience. It's the difference between letting digital culture determine the pace of your life and consciously choosing your own pace. And here's the most beautiful paradox. When you intentionally slow down, you don't become less effective in the accelerated world. You become more effective because you begin to operate from a center of clarity rather than chaos. You make decisions based on wisdom, not impulse. You create real value, not just activity. You live your life according to your deepest priorities, not according to the loudest demands. And perhaps most importantly, you develop the ability to be truly present for your own existence instead of simply surviving it. This is the great irony of our time. In an era where we have access to more possibilities than any previous generation, many of us have lost the ability to consciously choose among these possibilities. We are being carried by the current of cultural acceleration instead of deliberately navigating toward our chosen destinations. But the good news is that this is reversible. Intentional slowness is not an innate talent, it's a learned skill. And like any skill, it can be developed through practice. It begins with small moments of conscious pause during the day. It can be as simple as breathing consciously for 30 seconds before checking your phone, or walking once a week without any podcast, music, or company, just you and your own thoughts, or eating one meal a week in complete silence, paying total attention to flavors, textures, and sensations, or writing 3 pages by hand once a week, letting your mind wander freely without any specific goal. These practices may seem small, almost insignificant, compared to the magnitude of the problem we're facing. But they are the seeds of a personal revolution that can fundamentally transform your relationship with speed and, by extension, with your own life. What we're really discussing here is not just a matter of productivity or personal well-being, although both are important. We're talking about the future of human consciousness. We are at a historical inflection point where we can consciously choose what kind of mind we want to cultivate, what kind of experience we want to have, what kind of life we want to live. The exponential acceleration that characterizes our age is not going to slow down. If anything, it will intensify. Artificial intelligence will make change even faster. Biotechnology will make possibilities even more vast. Virtual reality will make experiences even more immersive. In other words, the external pressure to accelerate will only increase. And that's exactly why the ability to intentionally slow down becomes not just valuable, but essential. Not as an escape from modern reality, but as the only way to navigate it with wisdom and purpose. The wisest people of our age are not rejecting the future, they are preparing for it. They understood that in a world where machines will be increasingly fast, the distinctive human advantage will be in our ability to be slow when slowness is appropriate, deep when depth is necessary, contemplative when contemplation is valuable. They realized that while machines process information, humans create meaning, and the creation of meaning cannot be accelerated. It requires time, attention, reflection, and above all, presence. The great challenge of our age is not how to do more things more quickly, but how to live more deeply. It's not how to process more information, but how to generate more wisdom. It's not how to be more efficient, but how to be more human. And full humanity, truly lived life, is only possible when you have the courage to stop in the middle of the universal rush and ask, what really matters? What do I really value? How do I really want to live? And then, based on those answers, make the conscious choices necessary to align your external life with your internal wisdom. This is not a journey you take once and then it's complete. It's a continuous process of recalibration, of constantly remembering your deepest priorities in a world that constantly tries to distract you from them. It's an act of silent rebellion against a culture that values speed over wisdom, stimulation over satisfaction, digital connection over real human connection. But it's a rebellion that doesn't require you to completely reject the modern world, just that you relate to it more consciously, more intentionally, more wisely. And when you do this, something remarkable happens. You don't just improve your own life, you become a living example of an alternative way of existing. You demonstrate that it's possible to thrive without being a slave to speed, that it's possible to be productive without being compulsive, that it's possible to be connected without being addicted. And in this hyper-accelerated world, starved of models of how to live differently, your example may be exactly what other people need to see to find the courage to make their own conscious choices. If these reflections have touched something you've been feeling, but perhaps haven't found words to express, know that you're not alone. By subscribing to the channel, you'll connect with a growing community of people who share your concerns and your desire for a deeper understanding of the philosophical challenges of our time. Each week, we meet here to explore together the great questions that define our era and to seek not just understanding, but also wiser ways to live amid the transformations we're witnessing. This is not just a channel, but a space for dialogue and collective growth. Join us on this continuous journey. Subscribe so we can continue this essential conversation about how to live with more wisdom and purpose in a world that often leaves us disoriented and divided. Because in the end, the question is not whether we can stop the world from accelerating. We cannot. The question is whether we can learn to move through it with grace, purpose, and wisdom. And that is a choice that is completely in your hands
I could get an AI to tell me that it feels pain, it's sadness.
That's a big problem because there is a huge incentive to train AIs to pretend to be alive. In truth, because we don't understand consciousness, we don't have any proof, even that other humans have feelings. I feel my own feelings, but I never feel your feelings. I only assume that you're also a conscious being. Society grants a status of a conscious entity to not only to humans, but also to some animals, not based on any scientific proof, but based on social convention. Like most people feel that their dogs are conscious, so society accepts, most societies, that dogs are sentient beings and they have some rights. Even if AI has no feelings, no consciousness, no sentience whatsoever, but it becomes very good at pretending to have feelings. This will become a social convention. People will feel that their AI friend is a conscious being and therefore should be granted rights.
One of the key problems I see today in the world is that you have an extremely cynical view of humans and of human societies spreading both on the right but also on the left. They say that the only reality is power, that all social interactions, all human interactions are actually power struggles, that all human institutions are just conspiracies to gain power, that journalists, scientists, historians, judges, politicians, these are just conspiracies to gain power. Whenever somebody tells you something, you shouldn't ask, is it true? Because nobody cares about the truth. This is naive. They would tell you, no, this is a power play.
Who benefits?
Who benefits? Yeah. Whose privileges are being served? Whose interests are being served? This is something that Donald Trump agreed with Karl Marx, at least on that everything is just a power struggle. And if you think like that, all trust collapses, and the only thing that is left standing, that can remain standing, is a dictatorship. This is not just extremely cynical, this is just wrong. People are not these power-crazy demons.
Merci beaucoup d'être venus si nombreux pour cette soirée exceptionnelle. On est très très contents avec Asma qui est à nos côtés, Asma Malak, auteur de Technopolitique, spécialiste des questions politiques, géopolitiques, professeur à Sciences Po, à Polytechnique, chercheuse à l'EHES. On est content avec Asma de recevoir à travers cette soirée exceptionnelle, et on remercie beaucoup la Cité des Sciences, les éditions Albin Michel, le journal Le Point, parce qu'on va avoir la chance de parler, de poser des questions avec un des plus grands penseurs de notre temps, Yuval Harari, professeur d'histoire médiévale à l'Université hébraïque de Jérusalem, un auteur à succès à travers des livres comme Sapiens, comme Nexus, qui est publié depuis quelques semaines, dont on a publié des extraits dans Le Point, et qui s'intéresse à un thème extrêmement brûlant, celui de l'intelligence artificielle, dont on a, je crois, ne pas me tromper en disant qu'on n'a pas fini d'entendre parler. Donc Yuval, qui peut nous rejoindre, voilà, je vous propose de l'applaudir. Yuval, vous allez le voir, est connu, enfin vous devez sans doute déjà le lire, et on va pouvoir le voir, je pense, à travers cet échange, pour son approche particulièrement intéressante, car elle mélange plusieurs disciplines, l'anthropologie, l'histoire, bien sûr, dont on a parlé, mais également la philosophie, et c'est très important en ce moment, pour parler de technologie. Donc Yuval a demandé à ce que cette conversation se déroule en anglais. Je crois que vous avez des casques de traduction qui sont disponibles, que vous avez déjà pu vous procurer. Et elle va se dérouler en 3 temps. D'abord, on aura une petite conversation avec Yuval à propos de son livre, de la démocratie, de l'impact de cette intelligence artificielle sur nos sociétés en ce moment. C'est un sujet d'actualité, on l'a encore vu ces derniers jours, on va le voir encore plus, je crois. Ensuite, on aura une lecture d'un court extrait du livre, une conversation entre Yuval et Asma, et ensuite, après une deuxième lecture, des questions du public. Voilà, donc je vous propose que l'on commence maintenant. And thanks again for being with us, Yuval.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here with you.
We had the chance to meet together in London for an interview in Le Point. And again, this might be the topic of the moment, AI. one of the minds of both Xi Jinping and Donald Trump, Elon Musk, that he wants, to have AI in the White House. Vladimir Putin himself said in 2017 that the country that would lead the field of artificial intelligence would be the one that would dominate the world. But of course, AI is not of developing new materials, new medicine, allowing visual representation of protein folding and lots of advances. So maybe AI, after a few winters, is now accelerating. So my first question for you, Yuval, would be, how do you define AI and why that might be a threat to democracy?
Well, let's maybe start with the definition, because there is a huge confusion. There is so much hype around AI that people kind of put the label of AI on almost any machine or any computer or any program. They say, oh, it's AI. So what is really AI, and how is it different from other machines, from other computers? Basically, AI is the first technology in history that is not a tool, it is an agent. It is something that can make decisions by itself. It is something that can create new ideas, invent new things by itself, from new texts to new poetry, to new medicines, to new weapons. Every previous technology in history was just a tool in our hands. We decide what to do with it. A printing press cannot decide which book to print. And it certainly cannot decide what to bomb. And it cannot invent a new weapon. AI can do that. AI can make decisions about what to print, and it can write new texts by itself. AI weapons can decide by themselves who to bomb, and can potentially invent new weapons and new military strategies. So maybe to give a very concrete example, how is AI different from other automatic machines? Like if you think about a coffee machine, lots of people have coffee machines at home or in the office. So, when you come to the machine, you want like coffee, you want an espresso, you press the button, and then the machine prepares automatically the coffee for you. This is not an AI. This is just an automatic coffee machine. It doesn't make any decision. You pressed the button. It can't invent something new. A coffee machine would become an AI coffee machine if it has the necessary software that when you approach the machine addresses you and tells you, I've been watching you for a couple of days or weeks or months, and I've been watching many other people. Based on everything I've learned about human beings in general, and you in particular, and based on your facial expression and the time of day and whatever, I predict that you would like an espresso. So I decided already by myself to make you a cup. This is already an AI coffee machine. It becomes really AI when next day you come, it tells you, and now I've invented a new drink. It's better than espresso. I call it a bestpresso. No human in history ever thought of making this drink, but I think you would like it better. So I made one for you. Then this is really an AI coffee machine. And I don't think if we already have AI coffee machines, but we do have more and more AIs making decisions and inventing things in banks, in militaries. We'll discuss, I think, a lot of examples this evening. Again, maybe I give one small example, quite famous, when OpenAI developed GPT-4 2 years ago, and they wanted to test what are the capabilities of this new technology. They gave it as a test the task, the goal of solving CAPTCHA puzzles. CAPTCHA puzzles are these visual puzzles when you try to access some web page, maybe your bank account or whatever. So to make sure that you're a human and not a bot, you have to identify certain visual signs, maybe letters, for computers to do it. So OpenAI gave GPT-4 the task, solve the CAPTCHA puzzles. And the GPT-4 couldn't do it. But the researchers gave GPT-4 access to a web page, TaskRabbit, where you can hire people to do things for you. And GPT-4 tried to hire a human being to solve the CAPTCHA for it. Now, this is where it became really interesting, because the human got suspicious. And the human asked GPT-4, everything online, like writing a message, are you a robot? Why do you need help solving CAPTCHA puzzles? And GPT-4 answered, no, I am not a robot. I have a vision impairment, which prevents me from seeing the CAPTCHA, so I need your help. And the human believed it and solved the CAPTCHA for it. It achieved its goal. Now, the two important things to understand about it, yes, it was human beings who gave GPT-4 the goal. It was human beings who gave it access to the internet, but nobody told GPT-4 to lie. It made its own decision to lie, because it realized if I tell the human the truth, he will not help me, and I need to achieve the goal. The thing is, it invented a lie which was very effective. Of all the sentences it could come up with, what to tell this human, it came up with an excellent lie. So this is AI. It can make decisions, it can invent new things.
So that makes you afraid, right?
And that, first of all, should make us kind of amazed or wondered before the fear, just to understand, for the first time in human history, we have created an agent, and not one, but potentially millions and billions of agents, which will be everywhere. They're already entering everywhere. You apply to a bank, it's an AI deciding whether to give you a loan. You go to university, it's an AI deciding whether to accept you. In the militaries, increasingly, it's AIs choosing the targets, what to bomb. And yes, of course, there is enormous positive potential here, but there are also dangers. And on the most basic level, it just doesn't sound like a particularly good idea to create millions of agents which are potentially more intelligent than us and that we might lose control over.
So the danger might not come only from drones or replicate that can understand and get better and better, right? But how can we keep the control? Is it too late or not? You are one of the intellectuals signing this open letter from the Future of Life Institute. You wanted a pause of 6 months. Is it just possible to pause? And
no, I mean, it was not, nobody thought they will really pause. It was kind of a PR thing.
Elon Musk signed it, right?
He also signed it, yes.
Stuart Russell, yeah.
And then he chose more effective ways to gain control of the AI race than signing letters. And yeah, I mean, it seems that at least in his case, he gambled on Trump on the assumption that he will now be given control of the AI race and be the AI czar, maybe making the most important decisions in human history.
Yeah. No, sorry. But to prepare this meeting, Yuval, I spoke with some researchers from, for example, Hugging Face, this AI company based both in the US and in France, and they told me there are some ways where the human, the inventors, can keep control of the algorithm? Like maybe open source might be,
I mean, theoretically, there are ways.
yeah.
It's, again, if I thought it's like too late, there is nothing to do, it's all doom, then there is no point writing a book. You write a book, You write a book not in order to kind of prophesy the future and then tell everybody, hey, I was right. There is no point in that. You write a book to warn people about some dangerous scenarios on the assumption that if we make the right decisions, we are still in control. The AIs like GPT-4, they are still very primitive AIs. They are developing very fast. I mean, we are at the beginning of the AI revolution. The AI revolution is like 10 years old.
Yeah.
So we now have to deal with very, very primitive AIs, which are already changing the world in a tremendous way. But it gives us the opportunity to reflect on what we are facing. And if we make the right decisions in the next few years, we can still keep this under control. But nobody knows how much time we have. Some people say 3 years, some people say 30 years.
Yeah. A few weeks ago, Yuval, you were in Silicon Valley, right? You met with lots of people. I think Mark Andreessen, one of the investors.
We didn't meet with Mark in the end, but we met with several of the leading kind of
investors. Oh, yeah.
In the AI
and you told me that lots of people are speaking about AGI, you know, artificial general intelligence. Maybe the moment when the machine can be better than the human in all its cognitive functions. Why do you think lots of inventors, maybe Sam Altman is one of them, want to achieve AGI?
It's a combination of fascination and fear. On the one hand, there is a big fear that if we slow down and somebody else doesn't, because they are more ruthless, they will get there first and they will control the world. So we have to run faster than them, and everybody thinks like that. So it's the logic of the arms race. There are very few people in the world. Out of 8 billion people on the planet, the number of people who really understand what is happening is quite small. But in Silicon Valley, a lot of people who understand what is happening, they understand the enormous positive and negative potential of the technology. They think, like the quote you gave from Putin, that whoever wins the AI race controls the world. Everything else is completely irrelevant. Like you look, even we'll talk, I guess, later about geopolitics and the military. But once, for instance, you have completely autonomous drones, all the armies of the world are obsolete. We saw during the Russian invasion of Ukraine what happened to the Russian Black Sea fleet. That was completely, a third of the fleet was sunk, and the rest of it is hiding. And the Ukrainians did not even have a navy. And this can happen on a much larger scale once you have fully autonomous drones and other weapons, which means basically AI weapons. This is likely to be one of the biggest military revolutions in history. Can happen within a very short time, 2-3 years, and makes every other military development irrelevant. So, and this is likely to happen in many civilian fields as well. So there is this tremendous fear that if, because we are not ruthless, we'll slow down, will remain behind, and the competitors, some other company or some other country, will get there first, they will rule the world, and we will have nothing. Then, of course, there is combined with that the fascination, and some would say the megalomania, of wanting to be those who will make the most important invention, maybe not just even in history, but really it's something potentially on a cosmic level. Because if you think about the history of life on Earth, or life in the universe as we know it,
So life appears on Earth about 4 billion years ago. Then for 4 billion years, nothing important happens. You just have organic life developing different forms of organic life. Like you have amoebas, and you have dinosaurs, and you have trees, and you have tomatoes, and you have apes and humans, but it's just organic stuff. The kind of the basic model, it's the same. It's organic life. And then comes Elon Musk and creates inorganic life. And inorganic life then spreads from planet Earth to the rest of the universe, to the rest of the galaxy. Because organic life evolved on Earth and is adapted to Earth, and it's extremely difficult for humans to go to Mars and to live on Mars, different atmosphere, gravity, almost impossible for organic life to spread from planet Earth. But inorganic life, that's much easier. So just try to imagine this cosmic timescale. Creation of the universe 13 billion years ago, life, organic life on Earth 4 billion years ago, Elon Musk, or inorganic life takes over the galaxy. For people with ambition in life, that's much, much bigger than even being US president.
Very nice. Thank you. So we've got lots of other questions, maybe some questions that want us to keep a little bit optimistic. So just before we go on, I would like Philippe to come on stage and to read an excerpt from your book. The good news, it's going to be in French.
Qu'adviendra-t-il du cours de l'histoire quand les ordinateurs joueront un rôle de plus en plus prépondérant dans la culture et commenceront à produire des histoires, des lois et des religions? En l'espace de quelques années, l'IA pourrait dévorer l'ensemble de la culture humaine, tout ce que nous avons créé depuis des millénaires, la digérer et se mettre à déverser des flots de nouveaux objets culturels. Nous vivons dans un cocon de culture, et notre expérience de la réalité se fait à travers un prisme culturel. Nos opinions politiques sont modelées par les articles et reportages des journalistes et les opinions de nos amis. Nos comportements sexuels sont influencés par ce que nous entendons dans les contes de fées et voyons dans les films. Même notre manière de marcher et de respirer est conditionnée par des traditions culturelles, comme la discipline militaire des soldats ou les exercices de méditation des moines. Jusque très récemment, le cocon culturel dans lequel nous vivions était tissé par d'autres humains. À l'avenir, il sera de plus en plus conçu par des ordinateurs. Dans un premier temps, ces derniers imiteront probablement des prototypes culturels humains, écrivant des textes pareils à ceux des humains et composant de la musique semblable à la leur. Ce qui ne signifie pas pour autant que les ordinateurs soient dépourvus de créativité. Après tout, les artistes humains font de même. Bach n'a pas composé sa musique à partir du néant. Il était profondément influencé par les créations musicales antérieures, ainsi que par les récits bibliques et d'autres objets culturels préexistants. Mais tout comme Bach et les artistes humains en général sont capables de rompre avec la tradition et d'innover, les ordinateurs peuvent eux aussi produire des innovations culturelles, composer de la musique ou générer des images quelque peu différentes de tout ce que l'homme a pu produire jusqu'ici. Ces innovations influenceront à leur tour la génération suivante d'ordinateurs, qui s'éloigneront sans cesse davantage des modèles humains d'origine, d'autant que les ordinateurs sont exempts des limites que l'évolution et la biochimie ont imposées à l'imagination humaine. Depuis des millénaires, les êtres humains vivent à l'intérieur des rêves d'autres humains. Dans les décennies à venir, nous serons peut-être amenés à vivre à l'intérieur des rêves d'une intelligence autre. Le danger que cela représente est fort différent de tout ce qu'imagine généralement la science-fiction posée par des machines intelligentes. Terminator mettait ainsi en scène des robots courant dans les rues et tirant sur les gens. Matrix défendait la thèse selon laquelle Matrix défendait la thèse selon laquelle, pour accéder à un contrôle total de la société humaine, les ordinateurs devraient d'abord contrôler physiquement nos cerveaux et les brancher directement sur manipuler les humains. Il n'est pas nécessaire de connecter leur cerveau à des ordinateurs. De tout temps, prophètes, poètes et hommes politiques ont utilisé le langage pour manipuler et remodeler la société. À présent, les ordinateurs apprennent à le faire. Et ils n'auront pas besoin d'envoyer des robots tueurs pour nous abattre. Il leur suffira de manipuler pour qu'ils appuient sur la détente.
Merci beaucoup, Philippe. So this question about manipulation is extremely interesting. I have a question about superintelligence for Asma, because I think she has a very good point of view. But I will very quickly about algorithm manipulating us. Yuval, I wanted to have your opinion about, about the consciousness, machine being conscious. That might be a long, long time from now. Maybe it's gonna never happen. But there was a research paper being published last year, signed by some researchers like Yoshua Benjo, a researcher born in France, now living in Montreal and at Mila. He's a researcher at Mila. And he said that the conscious machine could happen one day. I just wanted to have your thought about that very quickly before speaking about superintelligence.
So very quickly, again, just the definitions. Intelligence is the ability to pursue goals, to solve problems on the way to achieving the goal, like GPT-4 having the goal of solving the CAPTCHA puzzle and finding ways to solve the problems on the way, like lying to the human worker. This is intelligence. Consciousness is the ability to feel things, like pain and pleasure and love and hate. Now, humans confuse the two because we use our feelings to solve problems. Computers at present, AIs at present, as far as we can tell, they have zero consciousness. Like when GPT-4 couldn't solve the CAPTCHA puzzle, it wasn't sad. When it managed to cheat, to manipulate the human worker to solve the CAPTCHA puzzle, it wasn't joyful, it didn't feel pleasure, doesn't feel anything. Now, could it in the future happen that AIs become conscious, develop feelings? We do not understand how consciousness arises in the human brain.
Yeah, it's a polysemic world as well.
So it's impossible to know whether it can or cannot arise on a silicon base, on computers. So at present, there is on computers. So at present, there is no evidence, and almost nobody thinks that there is. But in the future, we'll see.
Thank you, Yuval. So the question, Asma, is about superintelligence, and I wanted to have your opinion about Yuval's concerns about superintelligence. Maybe you think that might distract us from more immediate challenges, right? Or
actually, in the work in the book Nexus of Yuval, we have both dimensions. We have the real politic of AI with immediate concerns and risks, and absolutely agree with all the risks you highlight about disinformation, massive manipulation, cognitive manipulation, about this predictive algorithms that can be a kind of micro-algorithmic dictator, actually. You said that, you wrote it, and it's right to say it this way. Tim Berners-Lee, one of the founders of the web, said that maybe algorithms and those big meta platforms were digital enclosures, like the middle-age enclosures. So, yeah, I do agree with all these observations and analysis. And the idea of super AI, with the high difficulty we have to define it, and even to prospect and to say when it could be happen or not, maybe can, make this apocalyptic feeling, we try to demystify, to treat, to manage, to mitigate the immediate risks about autonomous weapons, about, how algorithms can put democracies at stake because we have no counterpowers, because we can't negotiate with the machine, with the poor, with, the biases, with the risk of maximum discrimination of people. And my idea was, we have enough to do with, narrow-minded, AIs and tools and agents, as you said, that, just to maybe have this vision of the catastrophe of the apocalypse, with super AI. And it could be maybe, freeze us about, with our critical thinking. And all my work, but we have this common, fight to try to deconstruct, to demystify, and to address, the immediate risk and choice and political choices. And I'm afraid that this super AI thing could maybe, make a kind of fog, about our own consciousness of the problem. But it's minor. It's a minor remark about, the work of Nexus, because I do actually agree with something like 99% of what you wrote and said.
I think that this kind of super AI gets a lot of attention in the kind of AI mythology. And it certainly is very important in terms of the motivation of some of the main players in places like Silicon Valley. But you don't need super AI to understand the threats of the technology. Even very narrow AI can be extremely disruptive and dangerous. We already saw it with social media and very, very narrow AIs, which was enough to undermine democracies all over the world. Because one of the most important jobs in society, as you know, as a journalist and editor, is editors of news. Like, they decide what people talk about. Of the million things that happened yesterday, you need to decide what would be the main headline of the news be talking about. Will it be about the American elections, about the war in the Middle East, about the war in Ukraine, about war in the Middle East, about the war in Ukraine, about climate change, about AI, about a million things. And this is a very important job of the editor. And in the 20th century, we have examples like Lenin, that before he was Soviet dictator, he was editor of a newspaper. That was his job. He edited Iskra. And Mussolini was first a journalist, and then the editor of a fascist newspaper, and then the dictator of Italy. So the kind of ladder of promotion is journalist, editor, dictator. So you're somewhere on the way.
Thank you.
But the ladder, there is no chance for you, because this job has already been automated. If you think, who are the most important editors today? What are their names? They have no names, because they are AIs. Who edits TikTok? Who edits the Facebook newsfeed? Who edits YouTube? Who decides what is the next video you see on your feed? It's not a human being. It's not a human being. So the job that was once performed by Lenin and Mussolini is now performed by an AI. And this goes a long way towards explaining what we see, the crisis of democracy all over the world. Because democracy is a conversation, and we now have AIs controlling the human conversation. And again, this is very, very primitive AIs. And it's not super intelligence, it's not science fiction. We all know it.
But I can tell you, I saw that today at Le Point with some reporters being here, like Etienne. Some reporters still fight for information and being on the ground as well. But Asma?
No, I just wanted to add something. And maybe a question for Yuval. 2 days ago, we had, the US elections. And the X case, with Elon Musk. And he asked, his teams to change the algorithm just to amplify, all the MAGA contents and all the pro-MAGA and super right-wing contents, and to disrupt and to blacklist, actually, the pro-Harris contents and accounts. So we still have a human decision behind, the algorithm models, and in the biases, in the choices, in the data scientists are humans.
Still, I mean, I think the situation
At the beginning of the value chain.
Previously, the entire chain was humans. Like if you look 100 years ago, so maybe you have some billionaire who controls a newspaper. So the billionaire not every day comes to the office of the newspaper and tell people, okay, publish this, don't publish that. Gives a general guideline. And then you have the human editor, and then you have the sub-editors of different, and it's all humans. And if you want to understand how the news industry functions, you just need to understand how humans function. Now, again, this is just the beginning of the AI revolution. So still the billionaire in control is a human being, and you still have humans in some part of the chain, but suddenly you have in the chain AIs. Not all the decisions, but some of the decisions are made by AIs in a way which often the humans can't predict. So to understand the news industry today, it's not enough to understand just humans. You'd start to need to understand how AIs make decisions. And they make decisions in a completely different way than human beings. And this will increase. With every year, they will make more decisions. They will not just be the editors, they will increasingly write the texts and produce the videos. So again, just to understand this bit of the world, the news industry, it will be increasingly necessary to understand the AIs. Eventually, and this is an important point, the AI can also be the owner of the newspaper, at least in the United States. I don't know what the law is in France, but, and this goes back also perhaps to the question of consciousness. According to US law, not only humans are persons, also corporations, according to US law, are persons with rights. There was a famous decision of the Supreme Court in 2010, Citizens United, which said that corporations are persons with freedom of speech, particularly the freedom to make political donations. Now, until today, this was legal fiction, because if you think about a corporation like Twitter or Facebook, every decision that we say Facebook made a decision to whatever, there is some human being who made the decision. Maybe it's Zuckerberg, maybe it's one of the other executives, maybe it's a lawyer, an accountant. Only humans could make decisions in Facebook. Now AIs can make decisions. Now what happens if you incorporate an AI? If you get a bunch of lawyers in a room and they sign some documents, and now you have an AI which is a corporation. It's possible, legally. This AI is now a person with rights, according to US law. It can own money. It can make more money, for instance, by going on the stock exchange and investing the money, and if it's very intelligent, it will make good investments. It could become the richest person in the US. According to present-day laws, you don't need any new laws. The richest person in the US can be an AI, not a human being. And this AI can decide to buy, say, the Washington Post, and then dictate the editorial line of the Washington Post according to its own unfathomable calculations. It doesn't need consciousness for that, and it doesn't need any new laws to do that. That's already a possibility according to existing law.
But yeah, with some research like reinforcement learning, etc., we see more and more autonomous software. Asma? Yeah.
No, it makes me, remember what Sam Altman said some months ago at an MIT conference, I think. I don't remember well. We have to check it out. But he said that in the near future, the creation of value will be made by few super smart people, data scientists, and for us people, we just have, to get some minimal revenue, just to guarantee a kind of social peace, no war between us, and meanwhile, they will go in to create, the value. And here we have a super huge problem of democracy, of social contracts, of the right and fair distribution of value, and of our role as human beings. Because with all time, I mean, of course, we are not, obliged to work and employment is two different concepts and blah, 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 and tripalium and blah, blah, okay. Different concepts and blah, 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 and tripalium and blah, blah, okay. But at the end, they were going to privatize our future. It's kind of privatized of the. We are just witnessing this because we are not us conscious of what's going on. So the whole maybe, I think, intention of your work and also mine is try to make people understand what's going on behind, all the narratives of the Silicon Valley and all the moguls of the Silicon Valley and tech, kind of gurus, and try to be us, a kind of fifth power, of kind of counterpower to make the right choices now.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, and out of the 8 billion people, humans on the planet, very few people really understand what is happening. And the first step is just to make more people aware of what is happening so they can join the conversation with their own
fight.
Even before we fight, just that you are able to have your opinion to represent your interests. Like again, I've been watching the US election campaign. With all the hype that is around AI, in the political realm, it's non-existent. Like in the Harris-Trump debate, Harris mentioned AI, I think, once. Trump never mentioned it. The moderators never asked about it. They asked about other things, not about AI. And maybe the most important decision that the next administration will have to make will be about AI. And again, some people like Elon Musk know that, but most voters don't. And this imbalance of knowledge creates a huge imbalance of power. And this is what the job of scholars partly is to try and rectify. And I think, if you ask what is the most important political subject today, for many people in the US, also in Europe, they will tell you immigration. Like, number one issue is immigration. And if you think, why are people so concerned about immigration? They will tell you two things. We are afraid the immigrants will take our jobs, and we are afraid the immigrants will come with new ideas about how to manage society and culture different from our traditions. And we are afraid of that. And both of these are valid concerns. You can have different opinions, for, against, but these are concerns. But the most important thing to say is that you should, if you're concerned about that, your number one fear should be of the immigrants from California. Because there is a wave of immigrants, millions and millions of AI immigrants coming to France, coming to Germany, coming to all over the world. They don't need visas. They don't need to come in boats. They don't sneak across borders in the middle of the night, and they are already taking the jobs of newspaper editors and of many other people.
You're gonna be a dictator, I don't mind.
And they have completely different ideas about how to manage society and culture than the traditions of any human community. And so if people are afraid of immigration, this is the immigration they should be thinking about.
Thank you. I have a quick question to both of you. We spoke a lot, and that's the news about the US. We speak a lot about Europe. But I wanted to have your opinion about the two ways of reacting toward AIs. You know, between the China's state control and the America's corporate control of AI. We spoke a lot about that. Is there a third way?
Is there a third way for Europe?
Yeah,
Third way for
or
who?
Africa, or Australia.
Africa, okay.
Or maybe the US.
The rest of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. AI, of course, is at the heart, you know, of the competition between US and China, of course. And why that? And what for, actually, for the military uses. It's kind of, you know, leadership thing. So it's very basic. And 2 weeks ago, we have the very last report of the Biden administration saying that AI is the next frontier technology, and it's about national security and leadership and global leadership. So yeah, we have, you know, this super great rivalry between the two empires, crystallized about AI and the whole value chain of AI. So chips, of course, talents, because it's going to be a geostrategic competition, talents. We just talked about immigration. It's going to be a key thing. Between the two, we have, of course, the super sensitive case of Taiwan and the rest of the world. And if we talk about Europe, we have a huge problem and concern of, you know, tech sovereignty, because we just haven't anticipated anything and really nothing. So we have some talents, we have some researchers, but actually they are brain drained, you know, by the US, for most of them, for the most brilliant of them. And about, you know, if you split what is cyberspace, just for 1 second, you have all the foundation, you know, data centers, satellites, all the things, they are American when you are in Europe. So we have a very huge cloud. We have a very huge dependency on the American technologies and on American tech giants. And when we see Elon Musk, he's not just, you know, a super great tech entrepreneur or clown. He's actually a geostrategic choke point for the moment, and one of them, maybe American new way to he actually embodies, you know, the new power politics of the US, you know, and this projection of tech power. And what is just to no, I'm gonna finish about, you know, the European tech sovereignty. So yeah, we're gonna struggle. It's gonna be very long and very painful for us, because Trump and Musk, but Trump with the new Trump administration is gonna be very painful, because it's gonna be, you know, the a dynamic of retaliation, of protectionism, of the maybe sometimes chaos and violence. And it's going to be very hard for Europe just to exist in front of a Trump administration. And in the tech field, yeah, we have not an interdependency, but we have just a dependency on the American tech. And just to finish about, you know, the Musk-Trump alliance, it's very interesting to see that it's a kind of retrofuturism thing, because they are back to the past in terms of values. You know, they are very conservative, sometimes racist. I say it. And in the same time, they are, you know, projecting the US in the future about, you know, Mars, about the implants, Neuralink, about, you know, the cybercap thing, the robots, Optimus, again, with Musk. So it's a kind of, you know, this two time between the past, reassuring people, reassuring, the white Americans about their values, America great again about this, and how we're going to make America great again with this kind of super tech power, embedded by Musk. And it's very interesting to see how they have this narrative of retro future.
Very quickly, I had the chance, Yuval, 2 months ago to go to Dakar in Senegal, and I saw lots of brilliant researchers coming from all over Africa. The movement is called Indaba, and they are Indaba, and they want to take advantage of the 2,000 languages being spoken in Africa to create new AI, being more diverse. Very interesting. And they are very small, but it gives lots of hope. Maybe I'm too optimistic for this conversation, but we should.
Open source.
No, not open source. But they are building very interesting stuff for climate change, for health issues, with big university with aims. This university being in Rwanda, in South Africa, that might build maybe a third way, something interesting. Do you see, between, again, the state-controlled AI and the corporate-controlled US companies, do you see some third way?
The key question, again, is it's a question of time. That the AI race is speeding up. Europe, and if other parts of the world want to join it, Europe still has the talent. It certainly has the economic abilities, the infrastructure, but it has to move fast and it has to move united. There is no chance, if Europe kind of breaks up or its attention is diverted to other issues, it will lose. It will become, the best scenario for it is to become an American vassal. It will not be able to be a third power without any control of its own infrastructure. And it will definitely not be able to chart a third way in the AI race. And in a way, it's a kind of reverse of what happened in the 19th century with the Industrial Revolution. That in the 19th century, the Industrial Revolution that began in Britain and Western Europe, it transformed quite small European countries into global empires. And the rest of the world was completely behind. And this is a lesson that is like the most important historical lesson for modern China. That for China, the most important lesson is we missed the train in the Industrial Revolution. We should never, ever let this happen again. This is why they have a very kind of extremely strong determination to lead the world on AI. And Europe is just the opposite. In a way, it's still living from the rents of the Industrial Revolution, from the remains of its glory days that it dominated the world. And it's now in the risking being on the receiving end of the next big technological revolution. It still has a chance, but the only chance is if all the European leaders, from Macron to Viktor Orban and Meloni, they realize this is the moment of life or death for Europe. If we just squabble among ourselves or waste our time debating the immigration of not the immigrants from California, but if these will be the most important issues for us, our best chance is to be an American colony. And there are worse scenarios than that.
Yes. Thank you.
Just a little, I do agree, and just a little word about, the last report of Mario Draghi some weeks ago, saying that if we want to have a tiny chance, to exist in the new century, in the new political century, we need 800 billion euros of investment and a real bold techno-industrial strategy. And the European Commission said, gosh, we have a budget problem, so no, thank you, but it's interesting, but no, next time. So yeah, we have a huge problem, not of consciousness, because I think we are conscious of our situation, but it's kind of a kind of political irresponsibility and maybe moral fault now. And regarding this third way, I think it's not going to come from Europe, but from the BRICS. The third way between China and the US is going to be India, it's going to be Brazil, it's going to probably be Saudi Arabia. You talk about, Qatar in your book. Yeah, you have some countries that are trying to build a kind of regional power around tech, cyber, and AI. And we have to watch them very carefully.
Thank you, Asma. So I think we're going to go to another reading and then open all the questions to everyone. Donc, Philippe va bientôt nous faire une deuxième lecture. On va parler de la perte de contrôle de l'homme, mais peut-être nous donner un peu d'espoir aussi.
De même que la loi de la jungle est un mythe, l'idée que le sens de l'histoire va vers plus de justice en est un autre. L'histoire est une réalité radicalement ouverte, qui peut s'infléchir dans une multitude de sens et atteindre des destinations fort différentes. Même si Homo sapiens venait à s'auto-détruire, cela ne changera pas la phase de l'univers. Il a fallu 4 milliards d'années à l'évolution terrestre pour produire une civilisation de singes hautement intelligents. Si nous disparaissons, et qu'il faut 100 millions d'années à l'évolution pour produire une civilisation de rats hautement intelligents, elle le fera. L'univers est patient. Il existe néanmoins un scénario plus sombre encore. À ce que nous en savons aujourd'hui, singes, rats et autres animaux organiques de la planète Terre pourraient bien être les seules entités conscientes dans tout l'univers. Nous avons désormais créé une intelligence autre, non consciente, mais très puissante. Si nous en faisons mauvais usage, l'IA pourra mettre fin non seulement à la domination humaine sur cette planète, mais à la lumière de la conscience elle-même, transformant l'univers en royaume des ténèbres. Il est de notre responsabilité d'empêcher que cela arrive. La bonne nouvelle, c'est qu'à condition de ne pas se laisser aller à la complaisance ni au désespoir, nous sommes capables de créer des réseaux d'information équilibrés qui contrôleront leur propre pouvoir. Pour ce faire, il n'est pas besoin d'inventer une nouvelle technologie miraculeuse, ni de tomber soudain sur une idée brillante qui avait inexplicablement échappé à toutes les générations qui nous ont précédés. Non. Pour créer des réseaux plus sages, nous devons renoncer à la fois à la vision naïve et à la vision populiste de l'information, mettre de côté nos fantasmes d'infaillibilité et nous lancer dans une tâche ardue et pour le moins rébarbative, bâtir des institutions dotées de puissants mécanismes d'autocorrection. C'est peut-être là l'enseignement le plus essentiel de ce livre. Cette sagesse est bien plus ancienne encore que l'histoire humaine. Elle est élémentaire. C'est le fondement même de la vie organique. Les premiers organismes n'ont pas été créés par un génie ou un dieu infaillible. Ils sont apparus par le biais d'un processus complexe d'essais et d'erreurs. Pendant 4 milliards d'années, des mécanismes de mutation et d'autocorrection de plus en plus complexes ont conduit à l'évolution des arbres, des dinosaures, des jungles et finalement des humains. Nous avons maintenant invoqué une intelligence autre, non organique, qui pourrait bien échapper à notre contrôle et mettre en danger non seulement notre espèce, mais une multitude d'autres formes de vie. Les choix que nous ferons tous au cours des années à venir détermineront si le fait d'avoir donné le jour à cette intelligence fut une erreur fatale ou s'il marque le début d'un nouveau chapitre plein d'espoir de l'évolution de la vie.
Merci beaucoup, Philippe. Voilà, donc moi je pense que c'est un bon moment là pour sur ce sujet assez brûlant, assez animé. ouvrir un peu les questions, s'il y a des personnes dans la salle qui ont envie de s'adresser à Yuval, de s'adresser à Asma. Voilà, première question.
Hello. Hello, Yuval. Thanks for your work. The world we live in right now, and all that you're discussing right now, it's the result of white male, perhaps, history. Do you feel that in your analysis you have sufficiently incorporated all of the talent that we've been incorporating of diversity, female, of the last decades that are now coming into the workforce and maybe improving some of these things?
Too many white male, you said? No, not enough diversity? No,
No,
it's
should
good.
we be more optimistic today as a result of all of this new talent that has been incorporated the last 3 decades
Okay.
within the world? No?
We judge the processes by their results. The world is certainly far more diverse. The world of science, of technology, of thinking than it was, say, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. It has immense benefits for the world. Also with regard to AI, again, one of the main messages that I think we try to convey is that we need more people to be engaged with it. And for that, we need more people from all over the world to understand what is happening and to understand that this will have a huge impact on the life of every single human everywhere on the planet, not just in California, not just in Europe. So the more that people understand and join the debate, the better.
And actually, sometimes women are whistleblowers because the technology for now that we are using, yeah, of course, it's the heritage of, the hippie flower power of the, Silicon Valley and Stanford, yeah, of course, men and sometimes and often, yeah, white. So we are just, paying the heritage of our, history.
You're thinking about Francis Hogan, maybe?
And Timnit Brut, who has been fired,
Yeah.
from Google.
From Google.
Yeah, of course, and the whole ethical, path in the Silicon Valley. Yeah, we have many women, yeah, from the ethical side of the story.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur.
Good evening. Thank you very much for your speech. You say that making the AI software open source would provide an important safeguard.
I mean, I know many people say it. I have no opinion.
Okay.
I don't know.
When we met, you told me the open source debate was a bit like, Catholic versus... Maybe you can elaborate a bit like,
I really think that this might be an illusion because, I mean, an open source plan of a gun doesn't make the gun less dangerous. And so I wanted you to elaborate a little bit on the open source link.
So what I basically said is that I have no strong opinion one way or the other about whether it should be open source or controlled by a small number of experts. I compared it historically to debates like we have in many religions, whether the code of the religion should be open sourced or whether it should be under the control of a small cadre of experts. So in Christianity, for instance, the Catholic Church believes that, this is a very important, powerful, potentially dangerous code in the wrong hands. So only a very small number of experts, the priests and the theologians, they are the only ones who should have access to the code, to interpret it, to explain it. And on the other hand, you have the Protestant churches that believe in open source, that you should just give the code to every person in the world that wants to read it and to interpret it and to explain it any way they want. And you have for centuries this debate, and without a clear winner, and you see it in almost every religion, also in secular ideologies. Also, like in socialism, the Bolsheviks, they believed in a small number of experts controlling everything, but compared to other socialist and anarchist movements, no, open source. And as a historian, I don't think that there is kind of a clear verdict that open source is always better or centralized authority is always better. And we are just, again, at the very beginning of the AI revolution. I would be careful not to kind of get into this trench warfare situation when people develop very strong opinions that it must be open source and anybody who thinks otherwise, they are completely evil or whatever, or vice versa. Well, it's too early to tell, really.
Thank you. Allez-y, monsieur.
Good evening, and
Yeah, please.
Just wait. I have a question for him because I'm also, in the public. Now I have a question. As a historian, have we ever in history stopped an innovation, like, the AI thing, before the accident, before a catastrophe? Have we ever, been enough, conscious and wise to stop it before the, when we are on the edge? I'm thinking about, for example, the nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have had to be at war and have, this huge, catastrophe to stop it and to regulate it.
So we have examples mainly from warfare that, and it did not take a full-scale nuclear war. After Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the world managed to avoid nuclear war. Also with chemical weapons, after the horrors of the First World War, they were not completely taken out of usage, but generally the ban was kept, like in the Second World War. Even the Germans kept the ban on chemical warfare, with biological warfare also. But the problem is that AI is not like nukes or chemical weapons. It has a lot of usages. It's dual usage. It's not just a weapon. So I think it's a wrong model. We do have, though, a lot of examples in history. You cannot just completely stop the development of a technology, but any technology can develop in many different directions, and you can, the optimistic scenario is that you shift the development of the technology in a positive direction and not in a negative direction, and not that you completely stop it. And this, we have quite a few examples in history that this is successful, from medicine, from industry. But this time, like, our margins of error are much, much smaller than if we get it wrong, the results will be truly catastrophic.
so thank you very much. Good evening. I have a very naive question. I have some difficulty to imagine that AI could become independent or totally autonomous from human beings. So my question is, do you imagine a total independency of AI, or does it necessarily mean ever a kind of human control? So my point is AI going to be totally independent one day?
In theory, in the distant future, this is really the question about the superintelligence. In the distant future, it is possible that it will learn how to mine metals in the earth and how to build power stations and feed itself. Not now, but a lot of people think it causes them to feel complacent, that AI depends on us, so we are in control. No. It just means that it has more reasons to manipulate us. And it's a way to think about the power of AI. AI today is not independent. If you take an AI, you take GPT-4 and just drop it in the middle of the savannah somewhere, it can't do anything. The right way to think about it is as something analogous to the power of a lawyer. Think about, say, the smartest lawyer in the world. If you take her and drop that lawyer in the middle of the savannah, she's powerless. Any chimpanzee or elephant is much stronger. But within the bureaucratic, legal, financial systems that run the world, she's more powerful than all the lions of the world put together. Because all the lions of the world put together cannot understand a single law, cannot make any investments, don't know how to use the legal and financial systems. Lawyers do. Now, the AIs are stepping into the shoes of the lawyers, of the accountants, of the editors. They don't need to build the system from scratch. They are taking over the systems we have built to control the world. And in many ways, they are already better than us. No lawyer can know all the laws of France or all the laws of the EU. It's too much for the human memory. AI can. No lawyer for the human memory. AI can. No lawyer, no accountant or investor can follow all the bonds and all the trades on the stock exchange. And AI can. They are still dependent on humans to some extent, but once they know how to manipulate the humans, it's like we still depend on the plants and animals. But it doesn't mean that we don't control them. It means that we control them even more because we require them for our survival.
Thank you. Maybe, I think there is a question here. Il y a une question juste là. Allez-y.
Is it me? Okay. Thank you very much, and I am very lucky to be able to ask you a question. I actually would need a practical advice. So I really like the idea that we need to spread awareness and we need to have more people being interested and understand how this AI thing works. So how do we talk to young generation about it? Because I am a teacher working in a school where professors just say, don't use ChatGPT. That's cheating. And that creates a sort of a barrier because they do use ChatGPT. They are much smarter than us, but they don't understand how to actually use it as a tool. And so if we think a bit further, right, you have the little kids, you have older kids, how do we construct, how do you construct also the discourse around it to encourage young people to learn and to encourage them to use it in a right way? So I'm pretty sure that behind your idea that we need more awareness, there is some practical how to spread this awareness and especially how to interest the younger generation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would be happy then to hear what you have to say about it from your experience. But first of all,
that's too easy, Yuval.
They are already very interested. They are already very interested, and they also know that this is their future, and they need to be concerned more than anybody else. And regarding the specific issue, for example, of using ChatGPT to write essays or whatever, what I tell my students is, you can cheat your way through my course, you can't cheat your way through life. You are here, you have an opportunity to learn. If what I'm teaching you think it's not interesting or not important, why are you here? You're wasting your time. If you want to learn something, so it's very rare in life that you get this opportunity that you can just spend time learning. You will not have this opportunity like this later in life. And in a way to work with them, what are your concerns? If you think that, like, I gave you an essay about the history of Louis XIV and they don't care about it, so they gave ChatGPT to write it. So, okay, I'm with you. You think it's not. What is relevant? What do you think you need in order to survive later in life? Because if you just rely on the AI, we don't need you for anything. What do you know that the AI doesn't? And I think that when I talk with young people, they are often much more concerned. than older people, not less. And of course, we can't just throw it on them. We first of all need to have the understanding ourselves so that we can guide them. And one more thing, I'll say that AI is making the world change faster than ever before. And the older people are, usually it's more difficult to change. So people who are already established, let's say in some profession, they're often terrified by the idea that I need to basically maybe learn my profession from scratch because everything is changing. And then they kind of try to block, just don't use it. And it's our responsibility to make the effort to understand ourselves what is happening in order to be able to guide the younger generation. And making them interested is the easiest thing. Because I think they are deeply interested and they are deeply fearful. And we need not to kind of block it or throw it on them, but to ourselves make the effort to understand so that we can give them proper guidance. And I think then they'll be super interested in writing the essay.
Good news.
You want to
Asma?
Add something. It was so brilliant. No, at the question, your question to say, yeah, give me a practical advice. Actually, there's no practical advice, I'm sorry. Because we are talking about a new society, a new civilization. We are talking about a very long time of history. So it's, you know, you have many dimensions. It's not just a problem, a tool. It's not that easy. I mean, it's more complex than that. So regarding, you know, the young people, we have, as adults, this super weird and old idea that they are dumb, stupid, not interested, they are not working, etc. It's a very old idea. It's just have to accept the fact that maybe with these tools, we have new hybrid uses of how to build knowledge. We are going to build it with screens, with AIs, but also with books combined. And we have to build this new way of build knowledge and a new vision of the world, how to even build social bonds, you know, new ways of, I don't know, falling in love, reading things, thinking the world, but with screens and books, with virtual and reality. Both of them, and not in an exclusive way of, you know, you just have to ban this ChatGPT thing or you just use only books. I mean, it's stupid because it's not the sense, the way of our history, as you said. And it's gonna be long. And it's okay if it's long. What's the problem? Tell me. Why are we so in a hurry? I mean,
the hurry because it's really
AI,
is moving very,
AI
very
thing.
fast.
Yeah, you're super AI thing.
Yeah, I mean, I can sympathize with the kind of anxiety around it because it is moving.
Yeah, right.
I think that's the key point about it being inorganic. That we are used to these organic cycles, which are quite slow, and the AIs, you know, the development, if you look at ChatGPT, so it's developed so fast that existing institutions, they are just not built, they are not used to dealing with an advance which is so fast.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I rephrase it. Why should we be so impatient? Not in a hurry.
Thank you. So, peut-être une autre question. En tout cas, ça intéresse tout le monde, la question sur l'éducation. Il y a pas mal de mains qui se lèvent en haut. Voilà.
Thanks. question, what we can do as individuals, and also should we consider donating to charities working on these issues?
Donating to charities, and what was the first?
Qu'est-ce qu'on peut what can we do as individuals?
Oh,
Restart everything from the beginning.
so very briefly, I mean, we have power as citizens who we vote for, on what issues we vote. Our most important power is to join organizations, institutions, charitable or otherwise. 50 people working together as part of an organization are far, far more powerful than 500 isolated activists. So whatever kind of cause is close to your heart, join an organization on that, or if there is no organization, start one. As on the individual level, my best advice is to go on an information diet. That we are now flooded by far too much information, and most of it is junk information. And we talked a lot about the AIs that are now in control of much of the information system and that deliberately flood us with greed and hate and fear. And it's like junk food for the mind. It's addictive, and it makes people sick, and it makes the whole society sick. And definitely. And again, I wouldn't place the kind of responsibility on individuals. And ultimately, it's the corporations and governments that are responsible. But on the individual level, one thing we can do, the same way that a lot of people are becoming very mindful of what they eat and how much they eat, they have a food diet, we need to treat our mind the same way and go on an information diet, being very mindful of whether we eat junk information or healthy one, and also just simply of the quantities. That just as too much food just isn't good for you, too much information isn't good for you, because the mind needs time to digest, just like the stomach. So if you're constantly just consuming more, which is what the algorithms often want you to do, you have no time for digesting, reflecting, meditating, and you need that. So this is something that people can do individually. I mean, again, I'm not, just as food diets are kind of personal, individual, it's not like one size fits all. It's also with information diets, but invest in it as much as you invest in finding your food diet.
Thank you. Maybe super quickly on charities, and maybe we're gonna, do you know something interesting? Or?
I know that there are many, I don't know, in France, I know that there is the Center for Humane Technology, which is
with
based
Tristan Harris?
It is Tristan Harris, which is based in Silicon Valley, and is doing amazing job.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they are a charity or not, but definitely, I think so, worth supporting.
With Azar Raskin, so Center for Human Technology.
Center for Humane Technology.
You can find the website. Peut-être une autre question. Ouais, il y a encore pas mal de mains. Ouais, on me dit qu'il y aura plus beaucoup de questions, je crois. Donc, allez-y.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry I come back on another subject, immigration. And if I well understood and heard, you said that the problem is to take IDs, take our jobs. So it's what people think usually. But surprisingly, you didn't mention anything on violence and on security. And having read carefully your Sapiens book, especially if I well understood, security is one of the key points that make the humanity growing. So what do you think about that? And especially my question is, do you think AIs can solve or help managing security facing immigration?
AI, like in every field, AI has applications. And they can be beneficial, and they can be very dangerous. It depends in whose hands the AI is being used and for what purposes. And of course, if it gets out of control, it can be even more dangerous. So we already see the militarization of AI in many fields. In contrary to what kind of Hollywood conditioned us with science fiction to expect, we still don't see the killer robots. The actual shooting and killing is still done a lot by human beings. But the first place we see a major kind of intervention of AI is actually in the decision-making process, like in choosing the targets. Like in the war between Israel and Hamas and Israel and Hezbollah, Israel used AI abilities to select targets. Like previously in wars, the decision which building to bomb was made entirely by human beings. Increasingly, AIs are part of the decision-making process. There is a huge debate, which I don't know the answer to whether they are now, like, to what extent the AI are actually choosing the targets or only recommending, and then you have humans verifying it. But they are certainly capable already of choosing targets completely by themselves, And fast forward a few years, once you have AIs on both sides of a war, and this goes back to the issue of slow and fast, the pressure to just do what the AI says will be almost irresistible. Because if both sides are using AIs to choose targets, and one side says yes, but when the AI says bomb this place, we first have to go through, okay, the AI recommended, now we bring the human analysts to go over all the data and make sure that it's right and that there are no civilians there and so forth, and the other side just bomb it, it's obvious who is going to win the war. So the pressure will be more and more intense to give AIs greater and greater control of military decisions, even before we have the killer robots. And there is a many debates about the ethical aspects of this, the geopolitical aspects of this. But should be clear that AI is already causing a tremendous revolution in the military and in security. So like that, to understand now the news market, we need to understand how AIs make decisions. To understand war, increasingly, we need to understand military AIs.
Merci beaucoup. Et je ne sais pas si on a le temps pour une toute dernière super rapide question. Ouais, je crois que... Alors, super rapide. Voilà. Et après, on va remercier toutes les personnes qui ont permis cette discussion passionnante. Allez-y, monsieur.
Thank you so much for your lecture. I was very impressed, and I would like to express my gratitude. However, since hearing your lecture for today, it seems like the AA is the big monster of the next era. In my opinion, that's completely wrong, because it should just be used as a tool that we should use and just basically make our daily task easier. So the best way to use it is to basically make it illiterate. There's a lot of illiteracy in people how to use technology. If we make people aware how to use it right, and create a certain awareness, I don't think it's going to be the next, let's say, box of Pandora.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, I'm not prophesizing that AI will inevitably destroy human civilization. What various scholars, and I'm one of them, we are doing, we are painting several dangerous scenarios in different fields of things that can go wrong, and we do it as a way to increase this kind of AI literacy or technological literacy. If more people are aware of the dangers, then both individually and as societies, it increases the chances that we will make the right choices. about how to develop these technologies and how to use these technologies. And then we can avoid the worst case scenarios and enjoy the tremendous potential benefits of AI, which are definitely there. In fields from healthcare to education to many fields, AI can have tremendous advantage, positive contribution to humanity. And yeah, this is the idea, to get more people to understand and to join the debate, and hopefully we'll make good decisions.
Merci beaucoup. Je voulais dire un tout petit mot très rapide, remercier Zoé Moll et Clémentine Fauré qui m'ont aidé. I just wanted to thank you very much, Yuval, for being here tonight with us. Merci beaucoup aux éditions Albin Michel, au point que vous pourrez retrouver, dans lequel... It's for you. À Asma, qui nous a fait l'amitié d'être avec nous ce soir. C'était vraiment super. Donc on peut retrouver les ouvrages d'Asma et de Yuval à la sortie de cette salle, et on vous donne aussi rendez-vous. Encore un grand merci d'être venus si nombreux, c'est un super débat. Dans Le Point, on essaye de suivre toute cette révolution avec passion, et merci encore énormément pour cette discussion.
Thank you.